Today on the CTV News at 5, Decision Day Dilemma.
I think it's time for a change for sure, but I don't know.
Many voters say they're still figuring out who to vote for in Monday's provincial election. Plus,
we're going to show the world that students are voting.
How U of L students are making their vote count. And the Brooks Bandits gear up for Game 1 of the Doyle Cup tonight.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Election candidates are hitting the campaign trail hard in the final days of the provincial election race. In Lethbridge this morning, candidates from both Lethbridge West and Lethbridge East took time to attend the last all-candidates event in the city, a meet and greet at the Lethbridge Senior Citizen Centre. But at times, there were more candidates than potential voters. Combine that with a large turnout at advanced polls, and some party organizers are wondering what it all means. The latest CTV poll shows the gap is narrowing between the PCs and Wild Rose, and the PCs now have the momentum. Wild Rose is still in the lead with 41% of voter support. The Conservatives sit at 33%. The Liberals and NDP are tied at 11% each. But some of the people attending this morning's meet and greet say they're still undecided. One even came prepared with questions and a checklist.
I made the list so I don't waste my time by listening to, going around and around, not giving me straight answers.
I think it's time for a change for sure, but I don't know what's happening with the Wild Rose. I should talk to a few people.
I usually have made up my mind by now, but there are different parties running this year and probably bigger things at stake, so I wanted to hear everybody's story.
Wild Rose Party leader Danielle Smith is in Lethbridge this evening. She's scheduled to speak to supporters at the Lodge Hotel in about half an hour. And whoever said students don't vote forgot to tell students at the University of Lethbridge. For organizers of the Get Out the Vote campaign, today was their day to make a statement on behalf of young voters everywhere, and they are calling it an overwhelming success. Daryl Rummold was with them as the first wave of students hit the polls.
Right now, we're heading downtown to go vote in the advanced poll in the Alberta 2012 provincial election. We're going to show the world that students are voting.
It started just before noon. Dozens of students gathering on campus at the university trying to spread their message.
Get out! No! Get out! No!
Trying to break an age-old stereotype.
The pattern tends to be that younger voters are not engaged in the political process in any significant way in their 20s.
This political scientist says one thing that has helped in this election is that it's expected to be one of the closest since 1993 when Ralph Klein rose to power, and students agree.
Got over 7,000 students at the University of Lethbridge, and if we actually make a strong effort to get out and actually vote, results will show on election day.
They weren't just on the steps of the Student Union building talking about it. At noon, the nearly 150 students loaded onto a charter bus and headed downtown. Arriving at the Lethbridge West Advanced Poll at Lethbridge Centre, and suddenly the polls were swamped, with students lined up to cast their ballots. A proud moment for organizers who call this a small win for democracy. Michael Solberg is one of the campaign's organizers and a political science student. If that name sounds familiar, it should.
I mean, my dad was an MP when I turned 3 years old, and he was until I was 19. So, I mean, I grew up in it. I grew up in that culture. So I do understand the importance of voting, and it was pounded into my head at a young age.
As election day nears, he's trying to pass his love of politics, passed down to him from his father, Monty Solberg, to his friends and fellow students. Organizers of the Get Out the Vote campaign say 2,000 students at the University of Lethbridge and 10,000 province-wide pledged to head to the polls this election, and they'll be checking back with them on Monday to see if they fulfilled that pledge, and they hope they will, even though this is the busiest time for students who are just entering final exams. Daryl Rummold, CTV News, Lethbridge.
2 bus loads were taken to the advanced polls today, and organizers say they will continue to call those who registered in the Get Out the Vote campaign to urge them to vote on or before Monday. Dory Rossiter, we are going to see some of the best weather this year this weekend.
I know, it's hard to believe that we'll go from what we had last weekend, which was chilly and cold, to actually seeing temperatures of around 23 or 24 degrees on Sunday. It's like I can smell the barbecue cooking already. People are going to be out in droves in the parks and doing lots of things happening this weekend, and the weather is going to cooperate. So I'll have all the details coming up in a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Dory. A Fort Macleod woman whose husband is on trial for second-degree murder admits she had a nearly 2-year affair with the victim. Derek Plord is charged with the death of George English in September of 2009. Police say the two got into a fight on a rural property west of Coleman. English died from a stab injury to his neck. Jennifer Plord took the stand as the final witness this morning. She says her husband confronted her about the affair a few weeks before English died, but she denied it. On September 11th, she says she spent the night with English at his cabin when Plord showed up and started yelling at the pair. Jennifer says when she left the cabin to drive home, she heard Plord say he had called the cops, and English tell Plord, you want to go? Let's go. Closing arguments will be heard next week. Police have arrested a man in Moncton, New Brunswick in the sexual assault of a Medicine Hat mother and her daughter. The pair were attacked in their Medicine Hat home last August. Police say it happened during a string of burglaries in the area. 25-year-old Kurt Holteen faces 10 charges, including sexual assault with a weapon, forcible confinement, wearing a disguise, and break and enter. He's being transported back to Medicine Hat to face the charges. And owners of pickup trucks in the Calgary area can drive a little easier. Police have arrested a 41-year-old man suspected of stealing several half-ton tailgates over the last 3 months. Officers recently searched a northeast area home and found 16 tailgates. They're now trying to find the rightful owners. Investigators say the high replacement cost of the equipment has made them attractive to thieves. Some tailgates can cost up to $5,000. They're urging truck owners to keep the back end of their rigs locked when they're not behind the wheel. The Lethbridge Fish and Game Shooting Range is opening its doors this week into the community. The open house is part of a new operating agreement it's signed with the city to keep the facility open. The range was closed in February for 5 weeks over concern that stray bullets were found in a nearby residential area. Gun range officials maintain the bullets weren't from the facility. If you're interested in learning more about the range or firearms, Saturday's open house begins at 10 a.m. It's located at Penequin Park. Ear and eye protection will be provided. The event is free, but donations will be accepted for the Alberta Summer Games, and the range will be one of the venues for the games coming to the city in July. Dozens of Lethbridge Beauty School students are competing for the title of Best in their class. Students from Purely Inspired Academy of Beauty are hosting their 5th annual fantasy competition today. They're cutting, dyeing, and styling hair and clothes for runway shows tonight. Students have 4 hours to get ready for the evening judging. They're competing for great prizes and, of course, bragging rights.
The reason that we developed the fantasy competition and makeover competition is to really just inspire creativity and encourage empowerment and development that they can see beyond just traditional means of being a hairstylist.
I've watched this competition for like 2 years, so I've kind of know what to expect, but it's different being here and actually doing it, so yeah, but it's fun so far.
The first show, 6:30 tonight. Tickets are $20 and you can buy them at the door. Meanwhile, students in the East Kootenay are giving new meaning to the term trashy fashions.
I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity to do with the students and get them thinking outside the box and reusing materials, and it's just such a different art project.
From plastic bag princesses to a red carpet-worthy evening gown created from bicycle tire inner tubes. It's all made from items most people would consider trash. The students are from Mount Baker Secondary High School in Cranbrook. They spent weeks preparing their ensembles for the show, and some crowd favorites, a wedding gown crafted from coffee filters and the missing piece puzzle dress.
It's a new year, it's 2012, and I think that we do need to recycle and we need to reuse what we can, because garbage dumps are getting filled up and it's not fair to our world.
This is the second year for the Trashy Fashion Show. Admission was a donation to the local food bank. And speaking of trash, the city of Lethbridge got a 20-minute makeover today.
It's a national initiative to clean up litter.
Members of City Council joined employees in a lunch break cleanup of the area surrounding City Hall. They picked up litter in the area as part of a national effort called Pitch in Canada Week to promote volunteerism and clean communities. Anyone can participate. Last year, about 2,400 people took part.
The city is actually quite lucky in terms of the fact that most citizens, when they see garbage lying around the street, whether it be a plastic bottle or some loose paper, they will pick it up. I see people do that all the time. But this is just something special effort made each year just to make sure that we remain a clean city.
Also getting underway tomorrow is the 5th annual Coulee Cleanup. It lasts 3 weeks. It gets underway 10 a.m. in the Coulee at St. Patrick's Cemetery. Volunteers from the Alberta Birds of Prey Foundation were in Lethbridge saying thank you today. 2 owls and a golden eagle were on hand at the Lethbridge branch of TD Canada Trust. The Birds of Prey are helping promote Earth Day tomorrow. It's also a way of saying thank you to the TD Friends of the Environment Foundation. Through the organization, TD customers have donated more than $54 million to wildlife projects across Canada.
And that money stays in this community and supports local environmental agencies. So an example of projects, we support the Alberta Birds of Prey out in Coaldale, and that's why they're with us today. But we also look at other organizations, such as putting scientists in the classrooms to show and teach our kids about the environment.
The Birds of Prey Centre in Coaldale is reopening for the season on May the 10th. In the markets today, it was an update for both West Texas crude and our loonie. Here are the final numbers.